Yo, what's good? 皆さんこんにちは。10ヶ月間日本語をずっと勉強しましたが、だから今自分の言語のプログレス分析したいです。だから今は今日ちょっとチェックポイント、言語のチェックポイントみたい。
So yeah, I wanted to make this video in English for two reasons. Firstly, to talk about progress in itself is kind of abstract, and I'm not ready to talk about that in Japanese yet. But also, this is also like a video for me to look back at in the next, I don't know, in the next 3 months or so. And I just want to see how much I stick to my word, how much of my own feedback that I listen to. According to my profile, I'm looking at now, I've done 77,000 sentences. I'm B1, low level, just got into B1. And I've done 220 hours of work and that's come up to 4,900 sentences, around that mark. So I've done a lot of stuff. I haven't done it very, very consistently or as consistently as I thought I would, but I definitely feel as if all my progress and all those things that you see me do on YouTube has been down to this thing called Glossika. It is bad.
Hands down, the best thing that I've done this year that I haven't done previously is just to stick to one language. Yeah, I've had language changes in Chinese and I spoke to people in French and here and there, but there's never been any expectations on those languages. It's just been, if it comes naturally in my life, then so be it. But I've just focused on Japanese and my expectations to learn have always just been focused on Japanese. Just put in context, I learned a lot of Turkish last year because the intention was to learn Uyghur. So in the turn of the new year, I was trying to find Uyghur resources and long story short, it just didn't work out. And that was always in the back of my mind. But I don't want to necessarily say suppress that thought, but I would just more so say when Japanese came up and I just said I'm only going to do Japanese. Props to myself, man, for just sticking to Japanese up until now.
To this day! I mean, if you wanna learn a lot of languages, you feel like a little kid in a candy shop, as they say. I should say sweet shop. I'm from UK. Yeah, it's easy to get derailed, isn't it? It's easy to be like, oh, I want to learn that. Oh, I want to learn that. My foot's wiggling as I'm saying this, but I stuck to one in it, and that for me is that for me in itself is sick.
Another big thing is I never focus on literacy skills. I don't get this obsession about reading, and some people talk about it's a good memory hook to be able to listen to a word and then visualize how it's written. I don't do that in English. I don't even do that in Chinese. I don't do that in the other languages I speak. And I didn't learn hiragana, haven't learned katakana. I've just been focused on trying to interact with native speakers, listening and speaking. And for me, I kind of feel as if I would have made a lot of progress in the beginning had I just focused on literacy. And it's very easy to get derailed and be like, oh, I need to learn how to read and write. Nah, bro, I want to chat to people. You know what I mean? This is language at the end of the day, man. My Japanese isn't great, but the good thing I can definitely say is what I can speak and what I can say isn't contingent on me writing something, isn't contingent on me spelling out in my head. I don't have that happening when I speak to Japanese people. I just speak. It's not great, but I just speak. I don't have that weird little checkpoint in the middle of literacy translations and whatnot. I just speak. Another good thing is I've done language changes really early on. The resource that I use is Glossika, and according to it, I was like an A1 level, so I was super low. And I kind of felt as if I was able to string some sentences together, like full sentences in the most unabstract way. So I went to work, or this is red, for example. And along with so with that level, I still just said, you know what, I'm gonna do a language exchange. And I remember it weren't a profound conversation. I don't know how it ended up being funny, and there was a lot of Google Translate being used. But the whole point is, I can confidently say, looking back at it, I actually had a conversation in Japanese at that time. And the other day, I've got a language exchange partner that I talk to regularly now, somebody else, and he's really into photography. And recently, he was talking to me about he had to do photography for like some football tournament in Japan, and he's talking about black and white photography, and it wasn't super profound, but you can see the difference, man. You can see the difference from talking and like cracking joke with some pigeon level Japanese to talking about relatively more abstract conversations and subjects. Not necessarily abstract, but I mean you can see the steepness in the progress. So early language changes was a big thing for me, man. Another good thing that I done early on was doing sentence mining as opposed to trying to recall sentences. So with Glossika, as you guys know, it's a flashcard system, and there's two different kind of settings to it. There's the listening section, and there's like the actual dictation, and there's a few other things you can do. I was just doing listening, and I still am doing listening, and I'm just sentence minding. So as the sentences are going on, I'm just going over them, and I'll even increase the speed of it to like ×2. It has hands down helped me with just absorbing the syntax. It has, I actually reckon in every single way it's helped me. Less so vocab, but I kind of feel as if getting used to the grammatical patterns and the sentence patterns. Sentence minding has helped me so much. I kind of feel as if when I'm trying to recall sentences and like the trade-off is not good. You know what, yeah, it sounds weird to say, but it kind of reminds me of playing FIFA. Like when I'm playing and I'm winning, I'm happy, but if I lose, I'm vexed. Yeah, same way how if I'm recalling the sentence and I recall it correctly, yeah, it's good. But when I miss something in the sentence, I get angry. It just gets me mad. Yeah. So again, it's down to personal preferences, and as well, it's a time thing. It takes time to recall sentences, but with sentence minding, you're just going with the flow. It's rhythmic. Another thing that's helped me in this process, but I should say with an asterisk next to it, is watching Japanese dramas. There was a few ones I've watched recently, and like Scams, and there was another, I think it's Revival, is it? And there's a few other animes that I watch here and there. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say they definitely weren't my primary source they weren't my primary resources, obviously not, but it helped me put a lot of things into context. You know, as I say this now, the first word that came to my head was yappari. And there's a few other things, just a few mannerisms, even how people bow down to each other. There's a lot of cultural, contextual things which I learned just watching the dramas. I probably value them as much as the language. Look, man, I think it was James Asher or Stephen Krashen, one of the two. It doesn't even matter. Some high up applied linguist said, "Don't just listen to your target language. Watch people speak it."
You know, by this time next year, you know, early next year, I hope, you know, that the progress is still going to be very steep, and I'll be finally be able to read and write hiragana, katakana, and some kanji. So yeah, arigatou gozaimashita.